I had a hobby too. Mine happened to be guns and ballistics, and I studied guns and ballistics as much as I could, and I wrote an article about high velocity.
So out of all my years working at Weatherby, the last 5 have been some of the most exciting. Working with Adam, with him running the company.
And to think that I get the opportunity of carrying on my grandfather's legacy 75 years later here in Sheridan, Wyoming, I mean, it really is a dream come true.
Oh, I'm home. Thank God I'm home.
On our mark, the Weatherby Podcast.
Is anybody not ready?
I'm ready.
You're ready?
I'm going to be ready after you. I won't be ready once you say go.
Perfect.
You won't be ready. So the first question is going to be like, JD, what is your
And I'm
name?
just
And
gonna
he's going to
leave.
be like,
What
my
is-
name is DJ.
What is not your name? Okay. The intro music we play separately, so I just lead in.
Got it.
Do I have permission to lead in?
Ask me anything.
Yeah.
Permission granted?
Yes.
On our mark, the Weatherby Podcast, we got Luke Torkelson here. And before I introduce everybody, I've got to make mention of how much better I hope we sound in this podcast because we got some sweet new microphones. So please comment early on if it does sound better. If it doesn't, let us know too, and we'll try to fix that. But we know we had a couple audio level issues with our mics in the past. We've upgraded the mics, so here we are. To my left, I've got the Tyler Grayten.
Wow. First timer on getting my last name right. Love it. Love it.
Thank you very much. I did the best that I could. I butchered his name the first time.
I know you said in your head Great Hen because that's what we said with Kyle.
100%. That's what I said.
When I see his email, I think Grethen. So
Everyone does.
Well, that's how I said it the first time. And across the table from me, we have JD Ponciano.
the ch.
Okay, what is it?
Ponciano.
That's what I said.
You did the ch. It's forgivable.
Did I say it different?
You said the ch.
Ponciano?
There you go.
Ponciano.
Was it Italian or not?
Portuguese.
Granted. I do take great care of all of our employees here. I just suck at names, apparently, which I wish I was better at because Torkelson is not an easy one. Anyway, as you know, Tyler is our marketing manager. JD is the product manager for Peak 44, a cool new brand that makes really lightweight backcountry solutions. We're going to talk a little bit about one of their new products that we are using on Weatherby's new gun that we're here to talk about today, the new Mark V Apex.
Apex.
Hey, Tyler.
I didn't get the memo on the Apex thing. So
You should have. That was weird. Sorry, everybody. Tyler, what's the Mark V Apex?
The Mark V Apex kind of falls in between an AccuMark and a Backcountry 2.0. So it's like if the two morphed, that's kind of where I put this rifle.
That's a really good way to put it.
So AccuMark lovers are going to love this rifle.
Okay, so for the less well-versed, usually internally when we're talking about an AccuMark, we're talking about a number 3 contour barrel. So it's a heavier barrel, whether it's a 9-lug action or a 6-lug action, it's all a number 3 contour barrel versus the Backcountry or the Backcountry 2.0, which 9 lugs are going to be number 2 mod barrels, which is a little thinner than a number 2, and the 6-lug is a number 1 mod, which is they're basically both pencil barrels.
Yep.
So why is that different? I'm asking. It's a quiz now. Why is it number 3 different than a number 2 or a number 1 mod?
I don't know. You just got me.
So yeah, there's more material there, so the barrel is going to take longer to heat up. So it's a little bit better for range duty. Some people like the balance a little more of a little bit heavier up front. So your overall rifle weight, there's more steel in the barrel than anything else. So that has a great driver to the overall weight and balance of the gun. So those heavier number 3 barrels on the AccuMark series do feel a lot different when you're shouldering. And generally, because there's more mass on the rifle, there's going to be a little bit less felt recoil.
Yep.
So when we launched the Backcountry originally, and then the Backcountry 2.0, we've got the 3D Hex recoil pad. Works awesome to help mitigate some of that recoil. AccuMark lovers were like, hey, where's our 3D Hex pad at? Here it is. So, JD, I can't wait. We'll get back to some of the specs on the Apex in a second. But JD, Peak 44, tell me a little bit about this stock in general. We'll get to the rest of the gun in a minute. But I'm really excited. I spent some time behind this stock, and it's definitely my new favorite stock. What's different about it from the Peak 44 Black Tooth stock, and what's it called?
This is the Bastion. So anybody who's familiar with the Black Tooth, it's a sporter style. So your grip's going to be significantly different on these two. The overall length is slightly longer on this one. You have a real slim forend still, but this one's designed more for the long-range shooting. Laying prone, it's incredibly comfortable. Anybody who picks it up, what you mentioned, everybody does the head nod. They really like just the way it feels. So it doesn't really matter what style of hunting you're doing, what calibers you're going with. It's just really, really comfortable to shoot. Some of the stuff you already kind of touched on. I'm a big fan of 3D Hex. I don't think talk about that near enough, that it really does a great job of mitigating recoil, not just being super lightweight. But specifically here on this one, the Bastion, that vertical grip and the overall length, it's still very short. So it's 31, right at 31 and a half, where the Black Tooth's just slightly shorter, 29.
So where that length is not a length of pull, the
overall length, yeah.
The overall length. So the foregrip is longer generally, and I see there's 2 swivel studs there, so that's part of the need for
design,
room.
Yeah, so you can accommodate the different styles of bipods and different accessories people want to run now. Things have changed so much. People are running all kinds of different accessories where, back in the day it was just for a sling. That was all people used it for, but now you've got all kinds of bipods and different attachments people are using, so that's meant to help with that.
Hey, Bastion, what's a Bastion?
Peak, yeah, it's a Peak here in Wyoming. Same with Black Tooth. I think we'll stick with the naming convention, but there's only a couple, so it's pretty easy right now.
JD, what is the price of the Bastion stock on Peak 44?
Retail on the Bastion will be $700 to $900 depending on the options you go with.
That's a range that's not insignificant. Like, what kind of options are available?
Colors, so we have flat black, we have 2 hydro dipped options, First Light Fusion, First Light Cypher, and Kuiu Verde 2.0, and then we have 4 sponge paint options, various colors, and then we have the all carbon.
Right on. Tyler, you're back in the hot seat.
I'm back in the hot
Okay.
seat, so maybe I'll understand the question a little bit better this time.
No worries.
Or I could go 0 for 2.
Just give us a rundown of some of the key specs of the Mark V Apex.
I think the key specs is overall weight too. So on the standard action, it's going to be 6.5 pounds, and then on the Magnum action, 7.5 pounds. So still an overall lightweight package with even
in the grand scheme of all rifles, it's a super lightweight rifle for sure.
Yeah, and especially so it kind of fits that sweet spot of like super shooter friendly, like you were talking about, with where you can take this to the range and not have to worry about your barrel heating up. So that is kind of the number one overall. Is that right there is the weight for me. So
yeah. So I think it lends itself. I think the super backcountry guys, the sheep hunters, the goat hunters, the guys that are diving in 5-7+ miles for elk, the backcountry still makes a ton of sense. That doesn't sound fun for everybody though. So I think this is, when you're not going in quite as far, I think your overall shooting experience is probably just slightly more pleasurable. The backcountry, I don't think kicks hard. Early on in showing off the backcountry at shows, people are like, "Oh man, your shoulder's gonna hurt." I'm like, "Well, here's the deal. Your shoulder's gonna hurt, no matter what. You either are carrying a heavy rifle on your shoulder, or you're carrying a lightweight rifle on your shoulder, and it hurts for like a few seconds once or twice, 3 times if you missed 1 or 2 times. But it's an overall really lightweight rifle that you're saving a lot of overall weight in your pack. You don't have to cut your toothbrush down now.
no, and your adrenaline should be pumping, so you probably shouldn't feel that anyway.
I don't think I've ever recognized recoil when shooting at an animal.
No, and I got to be part of recoil testing on both Black Tooth and Bastion. I'm not a big guy, and we shot the biggest calibers we make, and it was no different next day if you shot a Creedmoor or something that's really mild recoil. So I tell people that all the time, that it's really enjoyable to shoot. It's not just the lightweight.
Yup.
I forgot I had a soundboard. I got to use it more. We made that sound better too, so I'm excited about it.
Nope.
Nope, I am. So, JD, I took not the Apex because we didn't quite have that ready yet, but I took this stock in a different Mark V setup. I had a carbon barrel to Kyrgyzstan, and that's been my go-to rifle all year this year. So is Peak 44 going to offer this in other inlets? How's that going to break out or work?
Yes, so we're starting just like with Blacktooth. So the Weatherby family, Weatherby Mark V, Vanguard. We'll also obviously have HOA and REM 700. Usually the next question is, there's a lot of variations of REM 700, and yes, those are coming. It just kind of depends on that specific action and barrel contour.
The hinge floor plate one now is kind of the main one.
Yep. So the BDL.
BDL. Thank you.
And we use that. I'm guilty of that, where we use the abbreviations and people look at you with their head cocked a little bit. And it's like the BDL is just the standard floor plate, hinge floor plate. We also now have M5, so detachable box mags. That's live. You can get that in Blacktooth, and we'll have that for Bastion as well.
So when are the Bastions available on peak44.com?
When will this launch? When will this be available?
They should be available now.
Then yeah,
when this
it'll be-
launches.
By the time
So,
this
yeah.
launches, it'll be on the website.
So they're available now.
Yes.
Perfect. I wanted to talk a little bit about my experience, and I know you've hunted with them some. So we did a podcast about the hunt that I drew for Mid-Asian Ibex, and was originally Tajikistan, but I ended up hunting in Kyrgyzstan. And so whenever you're going that far, like, you're going to spend a lot of time getting your rifle and your dope card and everything, every little piece of kit fully dialed. And I spent a lot of time on this gun and this setup. I loved the feel at the range of the more vertical grip. I loved the feel of being prone. And I think I mentioned before in that first podcast that we did on that hunt, I've never had a rifle that I felt more confident in and more dialed than the one with the Bastion stock. And the stock was an element of it. I was shooting a 6.5 300. Recoil, not bad at all. And yeah, I really liked it. And I've now carried this gun for a while as a backup gun on a few other hunts. I was on a hunt recently that we haven't talked about yet, but I have a friend that he wasn't as confident in another gun, and there was a really, like, a solid whitetail 500 yards away. I'm like, hey, I got a gun that I guarantee you is ready for the task. And he had never shot at the gun ever before. And we've shared guns before on hunts, me and this guy, Dan.
Shout out.
Shout out, Dan. So he was like, man, I'm confident in what you've got set up. And I'm like, hey, this thing's money. Just let me dope it for you. Like, I was in my range finding binos, so it's like 500 yards. I forget what MOA that was, but I dialed it for him on the scope. And he made a perfect shot. The deer was dead standing, but we didn't want it to run anywhere. We put a second one in there that was also a great shot. And afterwards, he was like, what did I just do? What did I just use? What was that? That stock feels amazing. I love it. And part of it's probably just a plug for that gun because I love it. It's kind of a custom gun that I built, but man, I love that thing. I love the stock, and feels really nice. And it's just good to have a gun that you have that dialed, that you're like, I don't care what the situation is. It's right. It's on, and that's fun.
Confidence. Yeah.
Yeah.
We spend all year getting ready for this stuff, and so, like you said, if you're more confident come crunch time, it makes things a lot easier. I got lucky to get to hunt early this year with the Blacktooth, and I did a few hunts with that, but then this last hunt I got to take an Apex, actually, that one sitting right there, 6.5 300, and we prepped all this stuff to shoot long range and practice and all that, and then I had like a 140-yard shot, but I felt good. There was lots of times where I was glassing up bucks. And
Right. Right.
If one steps out that I'm happy to shoot, then they're in trouble.
I don't know if I just said it, but on that Ibex hunt, I ended up shooting at 450 yards, and I think that same rifle now has probably killed 5 animals over 400 yards, which is kind of neat in one season. I think that's cool.
Yeah,
The first one you did it with, you kind of ruined it though for everybody else. It's like less cool after your Kyrgyzstan deal.
It's still cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Hey Tyler, do you know how much the new Apex costs?
Yeah, $27.99.
$27.99. So a little more than a AccuMark, and the difference is essentially the stock. I should note that if you're just listening to this, a standard AccuMark basically has a stainless steel barrel that is straight fluted, and then the flutes are blued on the inside. So we actually blue the whole thing, spin it, and it gives it a really cool look. This Mark V Apex has a 2-tone Cerakote, so you get the corrosion resistance of Cerakote across the entire barrel, and we still have a black Cerakote on the internal portion of the fluted barrel. It is a straight fluted barrel, and just like the current AccuMark, it's a fluted bolt. It's got a extended bolt knob on this one, and full Cerakote and Trigger Tech trigger like all Mark Vs.
Yeah. And that has the flat face trigger.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
It does have the flat
Like
face.
the
Correct.
AccuMark Elite.
I wasn't necessarily a fan of it first, and then I shot it, and I was like, oh, I really like this. So
It's unique because it even if you're excited, your trigger distance from the back of the grip is kind of the same no matter what. So you just got to make contact there, and it's just a big paddle for you to hit.
Mhm.
It's not that much different from a curved trigger shoe, but the way your trigger engages just feels a little different to me. And
that was another thing we didn't really cover on the Bastion. That's the vertical grip. It's kind of designed for you to come in at that 90-degree angle like you're supposed to, and then with that flat trigger, it just feels really natural. You know, when I was shooting it on this last hunt, it was really tall grass to where I had to have shooting sticks up to where I could clear the grass. I couldn't even get my backpack tall enough to shoot, and using trekking poles as my shooting sticks, it was just tall enough to clear, but it just felt really good. I put my pack under my shoulder and had a really solid rest, and it just felt great, that setup.
it feels good to be confident in your setup, and I think a stock like this, a gun like this, you're obviously gonna get there only with time. I mean, I took a lot of trips to the range just to make sure everything was absolutely spot on, doing weird stuff, you know, like let me range something at 496 yards, or that was a bad example because it's so close to 500, but I think I did like 730 yards, weird yardage, range it, just spot on, feels so nice.
It doesn't hurt when it looks cool too. So
Yeah,
it
this one
looked great.
looks really good. JD, I'm jumping all around, but I feel like a squirrel today apparently. So you mentioned we don't talk about the 3D hex pad enough. Give me your take on the overall 3D hex pad. Why is it different? Why does it work? We have talked about it before, but I want to hear it from you.
Just naturally, when you think of a butt pad, you think soft, you know, big and squishy is what you'd think you'd want. But the stiffness of the material that it's made of really is one of the biggest advantages to it. The honeycomb design, so those voids, when they collapse, it slows the recoil. And same with the stiffness. You know, it's more of a shove instead of that sharp kick that you get with a standard pad or with no pad, like some of us shot as kids with just a
piece of plastic
Yeah.
or just straight wood. Yeah.
Yep. It's such a short amount of time, and I think we've talked about it, that recoil still has to go somewhere. It's not like it goes away, but it just makes it more manageable. It makes it to where, as a shooter, you know, staying on target is really important, and you're able to see those impacts just no differently than if you add a muzzle brake or a suppressor to a rifle, how much better you're able to stay on target. So that design, it's not just to shave weight or to look cool. There is, you know, a purpose to it.
Good job.
Yeah, that was a good one.
So I've got, I guess, an additional comment that I've noticed, and it's exactly what you're talking about with the recoil or the jump. So because the recoil is felt over more time, it's less likely to have that, and pistol is called muzzle flip, but that muzzle rise where it just the front jumps up because it's on your shoulder, you're supporting underneath it, and it jumps up. It definitely does that substantially less with the 3D hex pad.
Thinking about this season, the shots that I had once, like shooting super steep downhill with on a pack, another laying prone, and then this one that I was just on off sticks, still being able to see the animal fall out of your scope is pretty awesome to be able to stay on target. And those were varying distances, you know. So it's it's really nice. There's a lot of cool features to it, but there is, purpose behind it. It's not just, to look cool or flashy or to be the lightest.
What cartridge offerings are we going to have the Mark V Apex in? I'm just going to flip-flop back and forth. I feel like that's the right thing to do today.
We've got a lot here. It's also available in left-handed options too, but we got 240. We have 240 Weatherby, 257 Weatherby, 270 Weatherby, 300 Win, 300 Weatherby, 308, 338 Weatherby RPM, 3378, 378, 65 Creedmoor, 65 Weatherby RPM, 65 300, and then a bunch of left-handed options as well.
Awesome. So yeah, we've talked about this before too, but left-handers rejoice. We do have lefty in both the 6 and 9 lugs. So essentially now, especially in the AccuMark family, if it is available in righty, it's pretty much available in lefty.
Yep.
Which is pretty cool. Actually, I should have caught the guy's name, but I like to go in and out of our showroom when I go to lunch or when I come and leave for the day. And there's a guy in the showroom today that was buying a 257 Weatherby, and he was so excited he got a lefty. He was like, it's like when you find these things, it's unbelievable because as a left-handed shooter, like if I find a left-handed gun, I will never part with it, no matter what, like never. And so he was so excited. I was like, hey, we got pretty much all the lefties now. And he's like, I know, it's amazing.
Peak's very left-handed friendly too. So we're Rem 700, all that stuff. We do have the left-hand option. Same thing if it's available in left hand for the barreled action, then we can do it on the stock.
You're fulfilling your destiny.
I might have to take that thing from you.
I'm having a lot of fun on the board today, so it just sounds better. So
It does. We figured out the Bluetooth on the iPad.
It doesn't feel like that makes us sound real competent, but we did figure out to link it through Bluetooth was better than a wired connection.
Yeah.
But we can do IT things good here. Really good. What are we missing? Anything? Is there anything else you want to talk about on the Bastion?
We didn't talk about the weight. That is one thing most people want to know. 23 ounces is the target weight for these. They've been coming in under that, but 23 is what we're guaranteeing that they'll come in at.
I thought it was more than that.
So did I. And then we made a bunch of them, and it turns out they're lighter than we thought. So
yeah, because when we first started talking to you about this, you definitely told me a higher number than that.
And so I hope you told a bunch of people, and then they'll be pleasantly surprised.
I mean, it's better when it's this way than the other way.
Sure.
So that's actually, outside of the Blacktooth, that's pretty much one of the lightest stocks on the market still.
Our target weight when we were designing it was 28. So to come in significantly lower, obviously there's no downside. We've been just really happy that every time that we've put it on the scale, it's been lighter.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
That it's lighter, yes.
That's exactly what I'm telling.
That's exactly what I'm saying. What was all this 1 in a million stuff? So, yeah, so it's 23 ounces, which is super, super light. So you're getting basically a really vertical grip, a longer foregrip versus the Blacktooth. That's 20 ounces.
19 is
target.
Yep.
Okay. And it costs you 4 ounces, quarter pound.
So it's best of both worlds for the folks that are, stepping into the long range game or that are already there, but that love to backcountry hunt and are super weight conscious. We were just talking about this the other day, that not everybody who's trying to shave weight, like on a stock or in one particular area, wants everything to be lightweight. They might be wanting a lightweight stock because they use a super heavy scope, or, one piece of their kit is very heavy, so they want to try to shave weight in other areas. And this is kind of an unexpected area that you can do that and still get, a very comfortable, very shootable stock.
I like it.
I like it a lot.
Tyler, do you have any parting thoughts on this matter?
I don't. I think we covered pretty much everything. Check out your local dealer. Find it online.
Except for Peak 44. Go to peak44.com.
peak44.com if you want to check out the Bastion stock.
Camp catastrophes.
That one.
This is new.
What is that one?
I'm going to ask JD to talk about
Camp catastrophes.
Do you have a camp catastrophe from this season?
This season?
This is an audible, 100%.
That went bad. Oh, on my first hunt of the year, I didn't bring enough food. I brought 3 days of food for a 5-day hunt.
I feel like that's preventable.
It was like the terrible decision. So I killed a grouse on last day there.
Oh my gosh, I totally forgot about that. So you shot it with a shotgun.
Negative. Trekking pole.
Trekking pole.
Trekking pole casualty. Buddy of mine was glassing this basin we were looking into, and these grouse were right in front of me, and it was like, it kind of just went full hungry mode. And he was scrambling to get his meat.
Sometimes when you walk up on grouse in the backcountry, they just kind of hunker down. Like, did you see me? Nobody saw me. I got this.
I didn't share that I threw like 20 rocks, but have you ever had, your backpack? It's super awkward to throw with a backpack on, so I kept missing, and then I just got frustrated and ran.
So did it take flight, or was it still like
it was
bedded?
running, and it was trying to
okay.
take flight, and the old trekking pole got it done.
That's pretty good. Do you have a camp catastrophe, Tyler?
This one's probably the funniest. It's actually with JD.
Oh no! This is my camp catastrophe. Is what it is.
Oh, you were avoiding this one.
Yeah,
So
I avoided this from my memory. Is what I did. So.
We were driving to Antelope Camp, and I think probably 30 seconds to a minute before.
I don't even think it was that long.
It was probably not that long. We were just talking about things that make us nervous. I'm like, one of my like nervous things is getting stuck. I would never want to get stuck somewhere. And I'm telling you, not 30 seconds later, JD buries his truck into a riverbed.
The best part was we were with some very well-equipped folks for off-roading, and probably the worst crowd you ever want to do that in front of is a bunch of people that are pretty experienced. And
well, I'm not sure I want to take any actual ownership of this, but I did just like drop a pen without. I assumed you'd follow the road though.
Well, there was a four-wheeler trail.
There was a four-wheeler trail.
Left. I go, JD, take a left here.
And we're gonna meet at this pen.
And I'm looking at Onyx, and I'm like, we're like 30 yards. Like all I gotta do is turn over.
Why follow this road
when I can go up this dry creek bed of sand? Like, why not do that?
Yeah.
So you buried it.
I buried it. How quick were we out though?
30 seconds later after that, two guys jump out of the truck with things to get you
all the
out
things,
of the stand.
4 winches, 3 tow ropes, traction boards.
Pride gone for the whole trip though. It didn't matter what
it didn't matter what happened after that. You were the guy that got
Yeah.
stuck.
Don't let JD drive was kind of the rest of the trip.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing that up, Tyler.
That makes it fun. Yeah, and way to talk about your camp catastrophe.
But
that was also JD's
Yeah,
camp.
but it's actually someone else's.
I think that's fun.
Let's see what you did there, Tyler.
I think to hear my camp catastrophe, just listen to the podcast on my trip to Kyrgyzstan.
Yeah, I think that's 3 episodes before this one.
The entire trip was kind of a camp catastrophe.
Yeah.
So that's okay. It was still awesome. And it made for a good story.
Great story.
All right, Mark V Apex available in tons of cartridges and offerings with the new Peak 44 Bastion Stock from Peak 44's product manager, JD Ponciano.
Nailed it.
It's really important how you say the C in case you meet JD. Get it right.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for having me.